Have you ever just had that feeling, deep down, that something is fundamentally off? A lot of us walk around with these personal struggles, and we think, they're ours to carry alone. But what if the roots of our anxieties, our traumas, even the fractures in our society, what if they all trace back to one single shared experience? Today, we're diving into some material that makes a really provocative claim that the problem lies in the very system that was designed to build us up. I mean, just think about it for a second. That little hesitation before you speak up in a meeting, that fear of starting something new, of really taking the lead, where does that come from? The source material we're looking at today kicks off by asking us to face this feeling head on. It's a question that honestly cuts right to the heart of how we live our lives, both personally and professionally. And it gets even deeper than that. The source also points to that awful nagging guilt we feel when we see something is wrong. We know what the truth is, but we say nothing. It's that constant battle inside us, right? Between what our conscience is screaming at us to do and what the world around us has taught us is, well, safe. And for so many people, this isn't just a passing moment. It's a kind of chronic wound. So when you zoom out, all these individual feelings, they start to paint a much bigger and, frankly, a much more troubling picture. You've got widespread stress, soaring rates of depression, that constant feeling of just being completely overwhelmed. It's almost become the background noise of modern life. And the source argues this is no accident. It's not just a bunch of us feeling individually. It's a collective symptom. And here's the crucial point. That lack of initiative, the guilt of staying silent, this epidemic of depression, they're not separate problems at all. They're all threads, completely interconnected, and they come from the same place. They're all symptoms of a single foundational issue that's affecting every single one of us, whether we see it or not. To really get our heads around this, there's a concept for it: systemic trauma. The idea is simple but powerful. Our deepest wounds don't always come from one big bad event. Sometimes they come from the very institutions we live inside of every single day. It's the slow, steady pressure of a system that, say, constantly ranks and judges you, that shapes how you think and feel over years. And the source we're exploring today, well, it points its finger at one system in particular. And there it is, the core argument, stated as plainly as it gets. The claim is that basically everything, from our personal stress and relationship traumas all the way up to our biggest societal crises, stems directly from our educational system. Now, that is a huge accusation, so let's unpack how the source even begins to build that case. Okay, so this slide really gets to the heart of the conflict. We're all born with this kind of internal compass, right? A sense of curiosity, of truth, of what feels right. But the source argues our education system slowly and surely trains us to ignore it. The whole structure, the curriculum, the grades, the social hierarchy, it teaches us to look outward for validation, to worry about impressing others and meeting social standards, instead of looking inward for our own guidance. And this is what happens as a result. We become conditioned to value the external stuff, the titles, the status, the social approval, way more than the internal qualities, like having integrity or showing real courage. The system itself, just by how it's designed, chips away at that initiative we talked about earlier. It teaches us that the safest path, the smartest path, is to conform and impress, not to challenge things, even when our own internal compass is telling us something is deeply wrong. And the fallout from this kind of conditioning is massive. When you create entire generations of people who are trained to seek approval and are afraid to take real initiative, the results are, well, they're devastating. The source draws a direct line from this educational model to widespread depression and chronic stress. It also talks about relationship traumas. I mean, it makes sense, right? If your self-worth is all tied up in what other people think, it's almost impossible to build authentic, healthy connections. It just creates these cycles of pain and conflict. So for anyone listening to this who might be in a position to shape policy, this is the really critical takeaway. According to this source, we're not just talking about improving schools or tweaking a curriculum. The argument here is that the very foundation of this system is creating a society-wide mental and emotional health crisis. It's literally fracturing our communities from the inside out. And all of this leads to the source's most radical and, probably most unsettling conclusion. The argument is that if we ever want to truly solve these deep-seated problems, the depression, the trauma, that lack of courage, then the system as we know it has to be dismantled. It's not a call for reform. It's a call for a complete and total reimagining.
Now, that last quote can sound really extreme, I know, but it's not just thrown out there to be shocking. It's presented as the final logical step in a diagnosis. First, you have to acknowledge the widespread pain and trauma that's happening. Step 2, you trace all those different symptoms back to their common root. And finally, that forces you to confront the system itself as the cause, which demands a fundamental change.
And so that leaves us with this final, incredibly powerful question. If we accept the premise here that the very foundation of our education is contributing to our deepest struggles, both as individuals and as a society, then the real task isn't about patching up the cracks. It's about asking ourselves, what do we build in its place? What kind of system would actually cultivate courage instead of compliance, integrity instead of insecurity? That's the challenge this material leaves us all to think about.